Mel Zimmerman, professor of biology and director of Lycoming College Clean Water Institute, told me about the important and rare species now found in the cleaned-up Loyalsock.
Well, the Loyalsock Creek is over a 300 square mile watershed, and there's a little Loyalsock and a main branch Loyalsock come together at Forksville and come down. So you're talking a large distance where the water goes through many different habitat, both forest land, agricultural land, some urban areas. But the water quality has seen drastic improvements over the last several years, especially because of some acid mine remediation strategies up on part of the Loyalsock around Lopez. So as that work has progressed, the water quality, the pH, the alkalinity, the buffering capacity, as it's called, has improved. What my Clean Water Institute does is we've been doing a lot of different monitoring, not only in this watershed but other watersheds. We look at macroinvertebrates. We do some in the tributaries. We do some fish, electroshocking sample fish, and the indications are that these bugs are and all the organisms are indicating a very good water quality. I should also point out that we have a research project with Dr. Peter Pertokis, who's at Lycoming College in our Clean Water Institute, and it's a Fish and Boat Commission grant for us to establish the status of the largest salamander of North America. And it's called a hellbender, but it's also referred to as a water dog, Allegheny alligator, a bunch of different other organisms, names. A lot of people call them mud puppies, but typically a mud puppy is in the Ohio River drainage basin. It keeps its gills behind its head all the time. This only has gills for the first couple of years. They live for over almost 30 plus years. They are the largest salamander in North America. The largest one we've collected is 29 inches long. Many of them then, that takes a lot of years to grow that. But again, this is an organism that has been around a long period of time. It has had different people considering it to be almost a pest in the sense that it was eating trout eggs and all these other stories. But what we've established is that they feed mostly on crayfish and other small minnows, but mostly on crayfish, and they're a very good indicator of the health of the stream. So in Loyalsock and the next watershed, Lycoming Creek, Dr. Pertokis and interns from the Clean Water have tagged almost over 500 of these hellbenders in the watershed. Most people don't know they exist here because they're nocturnal. That means that they're out actively feeding at night, and they are under rocks during the day. So this whole operation of finding them is either done in the deeper pools with scuba diving, or you're taking a log roller and rolling very large boulders and finding them. So we're very pleased that the population is healthy in the creek and remain so as the water quality here stays up and improves. They do need very specific conditions. Particular type of habitat that we have here in the sock are large boulders. They like and some of the banks where there's large crevices within the bedrock. That's where they like to hide. That's where they like to live. So any type of sedimentation being added to a stream or river would plug up their habitat. They need these large boulders and large rocks, and this is ideal habitat that we have here. So we're constantly on looking at one of the projects we worked on a couple of years ago was to evaluate erosion along the stream banks here and, in quotes, document hot spots, and then begin, the watershed group here starts to talk to different farmers what they might do to prevent, because that erosion, that sediment, not only would impact hellbenders, they'd impact fish, they would impact what I call macroinvertebrates, the aquatic insects, and all of those are indicators of healthy stream.
What other sorts of plants and animals could you expect to find in the watershed?
Well, this particular watershed, just in the last couple of years, it seems to have a resident during the summertime in particular of a bald eagle, and we're very pleased with that. And so it's not unusual for people on a summer's day to be, just tubing or wading in the water or canoeing and see a bald eagle go by and going on down towards the river, towards the West Branch. In terms of fisheries, the main stem here would have a good brown trout population. Most of the tributaries, a lot of the tributaries would have both brown and brook trout, which are very good indicators of water quality also. On the lower reach here, it does have some largemouth bass, and in the sites that we've looked at, there are well over 30 different species of fish, which is a good indicator also of health of the stream.
Ruth Rode is a retired teacher who has had a long connection to this wonderful watershed, helping maintain the Loyalsock Trail. She told me about the history of the creek and the recreational uses the community now enjoys.
There are certain places the trail follows the banks of the creek, and a lot of the other places it's on the watershed, on the tributaries, and in the high parts and the ridges.
What are a few favorite places of yours in the watershed?
Catch 'em Run, because they named a waterfall Road Falls. It's a pretty area, and it's a splash dam right at the head of that narrow gorge.
What do you mean by splash dam?
A splash dam was used when they transported logs downstream by water, and they would release the whole impoundment of water at one time to raise the level of the water to swoosh the logs down to a bigger stream.
So this creek has been used for logging. Can you talk a little bit about the history of logging in this area?
They had log drives in this creek, which they started above the 220 bridge, the Route 220 bridge, and they did rafting from Millview on Little Loyalsock and rafted logs and sawed timber down to the west branch of the Susquehanna River.
And Ruth, you showed me some pictures earlier in the day about some of the bridges in the area, and some of them had significant history, historical significance. Can you tell everybody else a little bit about them?
There are still 2 covered bridges crossing the Loyalsock Creek, one at Forksville and one above Hillsgrove. The one above Hillsgrove is supposedly the longest single-span covered bridge in the United States.
Wow, wow. And have you spent any time on the river, kayaking or canoeing?
No, I've never kayaked or canoed on the Loyalsock, but I know people do that, and we're developing access areas for them to go in or come out. There's also been white water competition at World's End State Park.
And World's End State Park, that's about where the creek really picks up speed, isn't it?
Yes, the worst rapids in the creek's at the Haystacks. And yes, the rapids are more numerous up there, and they do this in the spring when the water's flowing. Yeah, and there are nice deep pools too along the creek.
And the Loyalsock Creek originates all the way up in Wyoming County, which was something you told me again earlier today I learned. And can you just tell us a little bit about the way the creek flows?
The creek flows towards the west branch of the Susquehanna River from Wyoming County. It passes through all of Sullivan County and enters the river in Lycoming County.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Ruth. You have a lot to share with us.